So I think originally there was a magistrate in the courts in Frankston who was meeting, and this is still the case, meeting young people who are coming to the courts, and when she would ask, where do you go to school? Well, there'd be no answer because often the young people don't go to school. So that was where a problem was identified. So Oakwood School was started as a response to maybe thousands of students across the region who just don't go to school. And the model is for schools is you turn up to school and you get counted in February and a school gets a budget to work with you. If you're actually not there in February, you don't get counted, so there's no money in education allocated to you for your education. So that's part of the model of Oakwood School, is to find the young people who are not at school, enrol them, therefore we have a school budget and we can employ teachers to work with them. Who's meant to keep them at school? Well, the parents should. Parents would like to, and that hasn't worked. Who would be next? It will be the teachers. It's the teacher's job to cater for the students at school. Teachers are meant to help kids, and unfortunately what we do when we get to the pointy end of difficult kids at school, we stop saying, what can I as the teacher do to fix this? And we turn it around and we blame somebody else. We'll blame the kids because they live on the wrong side of the road, or they didn't do something, didn't work hard enough last year, or they're not trying now. We do actually blame the student. If I was going to work and I had no clue what was going on and I had no answers, and people kept asking me questions and I still had no answers, and then people were horrible to me, I'd probably take a sickie and I'd probably look for a new job. And I think that's the same experience that our kids have had. They've been in school, they haven't been able to be successful, and people have told them off for it. People have told them that they need to be better, they need to pull their socks up, they need to try harder. Honestly, if they could have, they would have. They would have done it in prep. And our students have been unsuccessful for a long time at school to the extent that they stopped going. And I think the idea of stopping going is, to me, is a very understandable response. I wish they hadn't done it. I'm really proud of the fact that they've asked to come back to Oakwood School, but I don't think it's hard to understand where they're coming from.
Well, first off, I stopped going to school for like 2.5 years, and then I had an accident on a scooter. Like I broke my spleen and stuff like that. I went into ICU for 2 months out of ICU, and then I started walking properly. And then my social worker, she got me into school, and she ended up advising me to come here. And yeah, since then I've been coming here. And it's been good. It's like one of the best schools I've ever been to. Yeah, at my old school, I used to wag heaps. Like, skip all my periods and stuff like that. Like, yeah. But now, it's alright, I haven't wagged here yet. No, there's no point, I'll just come here and do it.
I was in Stepping Stones, the psychiatric hospital, and I did not want to go to school. I had a really bad anxiety of going to school. I'd have really bad headaches. I'd feel sick. I'd start throwing up. I was really, really frightened of people thinking that I was stupid or being told that I was doing something wrong if I couldn't learn properly. I just got really, really scared of going. I liked English because I like reading and I like writing, and I kind of liked science, but it was very difficult when you can't concentrate because I couldn't sit down and read. So I kind of didn't like that I couldn't do something that I loved to, that I used to really love to do. I couldn't do it, and so that was kind of hard to not be physically not be able to do something that you love.
Some people don't value it as much. Like, some people see school as just as something that's just a stone in the pond rather than something big, because learning it reflects what you're going to be in the future and what you're going to do. Some people in the world don't get education, and I'm happy that I get an education.
Every single parent wants the best things for their children, and every single parent wants their kids to do well at school. And they find themselves at home with someone in the bedroom that won't talk to them, won't go to school, won't engage. Students sitting at home by themselves, they're not really imagining a great future for themselves. That's really difficult for the families. It creates a whole bunch of stress for them, but also really difficult for the young person. Because we strongly believe that everybody wants to have a great future. Everybody would like to be successful. And our young people have found that taken away from themselves. To be successful in society, what do you need? You need to be able to do lots of things. You need to be able to meet people and get along with people, understand other people's points of view, understand the world around you. You need to be able to read things and work things out and understand things and question things. And all those things come from education. The work at Oakwood School is very well informed by contemporary research around brain development and the impact of trauma on young people's lives. And if we understand that all of our students are coming from some background or some history of trauma, that's a significant thing for us to be aware of. Everyone's an individual learning plan. We're not asking students to work in groups. The program is really designed or devised in hand with the young person. So the teacher has the goals that they would like to achieve in terms of literacy, numeracy and positive behaviours, but we're doing that around the interests of the young person. So if they decide they'd like to do some work around the environment or the AFL or some pop star, that's okay. That's where we start our work. So the teacher is setting goals and the young person is setting goals together.
My teacher still has a huge impact on what it is that I learn, but I can kind of choose what it is that I want to do. He makes me do math. That's something that I have no choice over. But like what math that I do, like what I want to write about, I can kind of choose for myself, and so I can choose kind of where I want to go, and I like that more. Math I'm so bad at, and I think it's because I don't like things that are black and white. Like, you can sit down and debate about things that like haven't been decided on. That's fun, because you get a different opinion every single person. That's the things that I find interesting. And I like to write about and I like to read about. I like history. I'm good at learning history. History is fun.
The first level of success is just to engage the student with the teacher and to begin learning again. And well, for me, that's an enormous success. And I think it's the beautiful thing is when the kids come back, they very quickly move on from their history. They very quickly start to think about a future for themselves. And I think that's a great thing for teachers. It talks to the strength of education and learning and what teachers can do. We as teachers and our careers teachers, we worry about where our students are going to go and how successful can they be. So the approach of Oakwood School really came from employing some very smart, skilled teachers and working with them to think about how we're going to make this work.
Well, Oakwood likes to incorporate 3 key words into the philosophy. It's learning, respect and empowerment. Learning emphasises, well, to learn and to proceed on with your life in such a way that you keep on learning. Everyone learns every day. And the next aspect of the philosophy of the school is respect. Just be friendly, humble, and the school tends to emphasise on that because no one likes to have conflicting students, and the school does a perfect job of avoiding conflict. The final element of the school's philosophy, empowerment, was a big part of me progressing through Oakwood. We use this empowerment method to help with the respect and learning aspects. Like, you're not going to do work when you're like down, or you're not going to be able to completely function when you're depressed. So what the school likes to do is empower the student and then have a sort of uprising where they're progressively or exponentially learning and becoming more happy.
I say to our students, I'm not going to drag you by the foot, grab you by the foot and drag you into class. I'm just not going to do that. I want you to be there and I want you to want to be there and working on something positive. But we have to have the student ready in the place to do it. So that's why we don't start classes straight away. We work really slowly on induction. We're getting the young person ready for learning. And so on our model, by the time the young person is in class, they are ready for learning and will be successful. And when the student actually arrives in the classroom, I want the teacher to be the most important person for that young person. The other way of looking at that is if our students end up in a class somewhere and they're in a class with a whole bunch of other kids and a teacher, they're most likely going to be taking the lead from the other kids. They're not necessarily taking the lead from the teacher. And at that stage is where it goes wrong. So our induction process it's really designed to get to know the student well, for them to know us well, and for the young person to be successful when they join the class.
It was pretty good when you got here, first day. Yeah, because we came through here and done like 6 or 7 meetings before I actually got into this school. I thought it was going to be like old school, you know, everyone around, smart asses. But no, it wasn't. I came here and it was pretty calm. I was like, oh, this is going to be alright. It was a good feeling when I was getting back into school. I was happy with myself, you know. I was making the right choices, going the right way.
There's that issue of teachers being able to build a strong relationship with their students, and is that important? And if any teacher says it's not, forget that person's not a teacher. The necessity of a positive relationship between the student and the teacher is unquestioned. But for me, I want more than that. I don't want just a good relationship. I want that to lead to fantastic learning. And one of the youth workers we work with in South Melbourne described that well to me. She said, yes, you don't want a teacher who thinks they're a youth worker. I want a teacher who might have the skills of a youth worker, but I want them to be a teacher. So the relationships at Oakwood School between the young person and the teacher are strong, positive, fantastic relationships, but I don't see them anything more than an honest human relationship.
Because I used to get in fights a lot. When I was at lunchtime and going outside, every day I used to get in a fight. But I don't know, it was something that I just did. I looked forward to going to school to do that. But, you know, I don't like being a bully. I realised that I was the bully. But since I've been coming here, I've been getting a lot better. And a lot more stuff's evolving better. Yeah, it's just you have a lot more fun here. And all your teachers and stuff get along with you, and you can tell them stuff like, you know, if your stuff happens at home, I'll come here and I'll tell Kira and stuff. She's mad ass. Because you can have a shit day at home and come in and tell her, and she'll understand, so it's alright. She's one of the most bestest teachers I'll ever have, ever. She's all through main school, never had a teacher, nothing like Kira. You know, she's always there for you, to help you. She's pretty cool. Yeah, she gets me out. It's alright. It's made me a lot more happier, you know. I'll go home being happy and it's good.
I love this school. I love that the teachers are not as grumpy as I think it was my Year 5 teacher would yell at us if we asked her questions. And so I had such a huge fear of asking questions. All the teachers here are good teachers because they're more tolerant. They understand, because there are less students. You can understand when I'm having a good day, when I'm having a bad day, when things are just not going to work out for me at all, and I'm probably going to end up crying. It will. Sometimes I'm just really, really frustrated with everything, and I'm just like, I'm just going to sit down for a bit. And it's a bit more approachable like that, where you can actually talk to the teacher and say, you know what, I'm just going to sit and read for today because I don't think I'm actually capable of doing anything else. It's a bit more understandable, and he can recognise that, you know, like getting out of bed was an achievement for me today, is not me being lazy. I've started reading again, and I started writing a lot, and I've started doing math, which I don't exactly like, but I think it has to be done.
Yeah, I do have a greater sense of trust with a teacher that I see more and more rather than a teacher I don't. It also makes me feel better that knowing that he wants me to succeed in what I'm doing rather than just get it out of the way, which takes more time to complete something in that kind of way, but it gives more of a personal experience of learning something that this teacher wanted me to learn it, so I know this for future experiences, and That's probably the best way. At a normal school, there'd be one teacher to like 20 students. Here, it's one teacher to 8 or 10, which is, I think, more manageable, and it gives everyone more of a sense of like we actually know the teacher rather than this person just being a stranger to us and being someone who's just there.
At Oakwood School, we strongly believe that everyone would like to be successful at school. And we're meeting young people who have dropped out of school, so by definition they haven't been successful. But that's not to say that they want it to be like that. When we look at the profile of our students who are enrolling in Oakwood School, and the negative parts of that profile would be at least 20% of our intake have really significant issues around anxiety. So they're kids who have difficulty getting out of their bedroom. They might be kids who have been bullied terribly at school and have found they've had to leave. There would be at least 85% of the students who have significant issues with learning, so that when they've been in school they haven't been able to understand what's expected of them and they haven't been able to be successful. So I just imagine that's a really difficult place for them to be in school where everyone's learning and happy and progressing and they're lost. And the other part of it is 100% of our kids have had some sort of trauma in their lives which has had a significant impact on their capacity to stay at school and be successful at school. So our kids have dropped out of school, but that doesn't mean they don't want to be successful at school. And one of the simple things that Oakwood School does is enable the kids to experience success. We don't push through on a particular day to the extent that we're actually going to experience failure. Our students always experience success at school. And it's so simple, but so successful, because everyone likes to be successful. Everyone likes to feel that they've just achieved something good. Everyone likes to have the smile back from the teacher and the positive praise and be able to go home and say to someone, or even at least think to themselves, they've had a good day because they've done something good. I think that there's no such thing as a lost cause. I think everybody can be successful. We may not yet have found the answer, and so it'll be very difficult. But I wouldn't be prepared to write anybody off. Our students have been out of school for a long time, so the average would be close enough to a year out of school. And we've got over 300 students enrolled, but I think there's probably another 5,000 out there who we haven't met yet, who are in the same circumstances, who have dropped out of school. I can imagine that maybe some of them are not ready to be talking to a teacher yet. The quicker that could happen would be the better, but we really need the young person to be ready and asking for this.
If I didn't come here, I'd probably be getting in a lot of trouble. The way I stopped going to school and doing all that stuff, I'd be doing a lot of bad stuff, and if I didn't come here, if I didn't get into school, my whole life would be twisted and going along different tracks. It wouldn't be perfect. It'd be pretty bad.
The real success is where they might go to after they leave us. So we'd be interested in kids going off into further training, other school options, further training, TAFE, employment, university, whatever the pathway is. We would like to see our students off onto a positive destination.
I would love to travel. I want to see as much of the world as I can, and maybe if I continued learning and kept on doing the things that I love, I could get a job that I'm where I can travel overseas. My goal is to, whatever I do, I want to be happy with it. And that's kind of just my main goal, is to not be disappointed by everything I do, because I am. I'm very hard on myself on everything that I do. I kind of think of all the bad things that could happen and then talk myself out of doing something that potentially could be really, really fun. And I want to stop that.
Learning, it's hard. It's hard, but I get there. Getting better. More and more I come to school, better and better I'll get. You sort of want a mad education so you can get a good job, and you want a job that you love and you can have fun doing, so you're happy. Something to do.